Hello. It all started with Courtney showing her real swatches of the new Louis Vuitton palettes that will be released on August 27th. And her swatches are beautiful, but it looks like, unfortunately, refills of those eyeshadows won't be available. So those eyeshadows are out of my budget. So I asked Courtney to allow me to share in this video a screenshot of her swatches so that I could make a dupe video based on real swatches. So Courtney B Luxe, all the details in my description box. She is based in New York, so she has access to exclusive shops. She can preview a lot of things. In her video that I truly recommend to watch, she also has swatches of the balms. Gosh, the balms are incredible. And all the lip products. So I would like to dupe those palettes, but as usual, I will be very picky about also the textures. I want to be as close as possible in texture, not only in color, to the original thing. And mostly I will use luxury items, so they're not cheap dupes by any means. Maybe this will be a nice reasoning, and you may have the same eyeshadows I own. At least it can be inspirational for you to check your drawers and find the gems you have been collecting over time. Great conclusions in the end. Okay, let's start. The first palette is the darkest quad, Monogram Infrarouge, if I'm not mistaken. We can see in the swatches here, the lightest color is a champagne. The closest thing I could find in my collection is from the Pat McGrath number 5 and is the lightest color. The skin show color is this one, and it has a yellowish tinge. And I spent hours on preparing the swatches for you because I wanted to give you the best option possible. I think Pat McGrath has refined the formula over time, and definitely I have noticed with my surprise that these skin show colors at the top left of her big mothership palettes give that silky effect I talk extensively about in this video, where I also shared with you alternatives to Louis Vuitton, because Louis Vuitton eyeshadows have that glowy quality that I call silky effect. Okay, next is the taupe. And when I watched Courtney's video, I said, okay, that taupe looks exactly like the one by Louis Vuitton, the one in the blue palette. That for me was a letdown because it's this one and it's quite gray. However, I have swatched this. I will swatch it again. And it's all about nuances, guys. This is gray, but as you can see, it has some mauve. So this is a gray on the pinkish side, while the one in Courtney's swatches is definitely more yellow. So I strongly believe it will be the counterpart of this, but this leans pink, while that one will lean gold. And of course it matches the golden hue of this lighter shade. You can see also how smooth they are. I think you can also see the difference. These by Pat McGrath Labs are a little bit more silicone-y, a bit thicker compared to these by Louis Vuitton. And these eyeshadows by Louis Vuitton that I purchased only in the refill, the packaging was too over the top and I prefer to mix and match things. So I am a big refill fan. I've been using these eyeshadows, are in my top drawer together with the BYREDO palette. These are my go-to for work. These quads definitely have more sparkles, you will see in a moment. Okay, so as I said, this by Louis Vuitton from the blue quad is too pink, so is not the right match for the new palette. Therefore, I decided to go for my depotted Pat McGrath Platinum Bronze palette. Is this one, it's these 6 eyeshadows, and this taupe is golden, has a golden hue. Another similar one is the taupe in Mothership 4, the Decadence palette. The light taupe there has a little bit less golden hue in it. That's why this is my preference. Let me see here. Yeah, definitely you can see that if you compare this satin shade from Louis Vuitton, the blue quad, and this one, it's a little bit more metallic. So I expect the Louis Vuitton one to be more like this in terms of texture and effect, just another color, golden, more golden one. I hope you can see the difference and you can see how pink it is, this in comparison. And then we have the difficult ones, because even the red one is difficult for me at least. The third one is the star of the show and is a night blue, almost a black, with all of these multicolored sparkles. To be fair, Courtney recorded the video in the shop, and we all know that the shops have these lightnings, right? And all the sparkles are enhanced, let's say. I thought in the beginning of the sparkling black in the mothership number 3, but the sparkles were white. The best match in the end, after trying, with my surprise, is another shade by Pat McGrath. So here I have a collection of 9 shades, these ones, from one of her holiday palettes, Celestial Odyssey. I will put the exact name on the screen. I ended up going for this one. This is the blackened shade and is full of multicolored sparkles. So this is very close to the original one. And yeah, I get that this is more crumbling, a little bit drier compared to the Louis Vuitton, for sure, because I know the Louis Vuitton eyeshadows and are silky is the right term, because they are thin and glowy and smooth. So not buttery, not the substance that you can find in I don't know, Natasha Denona, for example. But also in Pat McGrath, I see more thickness, but the concept is there. You will see the sparkles in a moment, because I will also show you the result under artificial lighting. And what I think is missing here are white sparkles, because here I can see magenta and blue shimmers, but not white shimmer. So to refine this and make it even more similar, what I also find is that some particles are larger than others. So this is very glam shade. And I decided to pick something that has coarser sparkles, and here's this duo by Patrick Ta, Always on Your Mind. And this has this shade here full of silver sparkles with a gray base. I use this rarely because these are a little bit too coarse for me, but you know, for this eyeshadow, I think it can be enhanced by this. So I will just put some white sparkles on top, and this would be the result. This is natural lighting facing towards the north, a little bit cooler, but we will see the effect under other lighting. Let's proceed further with the red. Now, you know that I hate reds. So whenever I get reds, I tend to declutter them. So to my surprise, I didn't have a lot of reds, but this red indeed is very nice because it has a brownish quality. Since I have very few reds in my collection, the ones that I have are the ones I cannot, depot and remove, like these ones, for example. To have that level of pigmentation, I have to go indie, and my choice was this palette by Blend Bunny. It has a reddish color, and this is the shade that I want to start with. It has that pigmentation and the brown that I need, and I will add some red on top. This is just because I don't have a single shade to dupe that. Let's layer this. On top of this, I would go for BYREDO. It's a muted red with some brown, but alone, I tried, of course, before, but alone it was not enough. And yeah, this is metallic, but once on the eyes, it's not sparkling like this. So let's overlap this, and it will give a reddish shine. And if I want more red, I can layer a thin layer of one of the best formula I have found, that is the Chanel Bissance. And this red here is a little bit cooler and light, but overlapped on top on those shades, it gives that extra red quality that I want. So this is my dupe. Okay, wash my hands, ready for the second round, the lightest palette. I did my research, and yeah, I was surprised how difficult it was, but I also want to share some other discoveries. So the first shade I would start with is the whitish shade. Is a shimmery white. I will use, of course, the closest texture that I can find to the Louis Vuitton that is available for purchase. That is the Givenchy. And this shade is silky, is shiny, is smooth. It's very close, as you may know from my Silky Eyes video. Then we have the surprise. That orange brown shade, I thought was more similar to a shade from Chanel. When I saw this palette, I immediately thought of this limited edition palette, the Bouton collection by Chanel from last year practically. And you see there's an orange, there's the blue, there's the yellow, and instead of the white, we have a light taupe here. And you may know from my video about this palette that this palette has hidden shades. It's a great palette that I should have used more, to be honest. This orange is, let me put it on the other arm because it's not a candidate. You see how thin and smooth it is? This is in focus. This is one of my favorite textures because it's smooth and very thin, metallic but not crumbling. To be honest, I prefer this because this is the Argelé formula, even to the Louis Vuitton. But this color was too light. It's close, but it's too smooth compared to what I'm seeing from Courtney's swatches. So I see more shimmer there. So I wanted something more impactful. The muted down version, let's say, of that Dune palette is exactly this quad by Chanel. I see the Dune palette by Pat McGrath, very similar color choice, but with more sparkles. So since this was not enough, it's more my preference in terms of the satin and thin texture, but I wanted more. I tried different options and I ended up landing on this eyeshadow that is a discontinued Nabla eyeshadow. This is in the Celestial formula, the exact same formula of the Celestial shade in the Tom Ford quads. The first release curated by Charlotte Tilbury. It happened to be also produced by Nabla, Italian brands. You should pay attention because they may share the labs. This is a bronze on the orangey side that has a lot of sparkles. So this would be it. And is the shade number 2. It's very sparkly, shiny. Shade number 3, that is my favorite shade and is very unique indeed. This shade is quite light. It has some gray in it, but it was too light. How beautiful it is. I love this on tanned skin or with brown underneath. But again, the shimmer in this formula by Chanel is the Argelé formula, but in the Chanel version is thin and smooth. It doesn't have sparkles. It's more shiny without particles. You see? So there are no glitters. You see the difference also with these other shades here. The one from the swatches by Courtney was not so refined, was more sparkling. And therefore, I had to go for something more avant-garde, DANESSA MYRICKS. This Stix number 8 Draco, so the metallic part is what I would need, but it is a little bit bright. It needs more desaturation. So again, I had to go for layering. I wanted a gray underneath. I decided to go for an indie brand, a gray like this from Hensley Rain Cold Moon palette. This one, because that is a desaturated shade, and I have a lot. That is one of my favorite shades. So I have a lot of, you know, possible candidates, but they were too saturated, too blue. But that one is in the middle between gray and blue. And I also had these ones by Tuku, but one swatch were not a good match. So I tried a lot and ended up choosing this gray. So this will be the base. Maybe even a little bit of green would have been better. Maybe I can use the Louis Vuitton green. Let me layer also some green in it. I wanted, you know, that hint of green that will make the shade closer, more accurate. I'm happy to do the work instead of paying that amount of money for the packaging I'm not interested in. Okay, and then I will layer this Draco on top. And this will be the shade. And you may say, okay, it's very complicated. Yes, it's complicated. But on the other hand, this type of shade I would use more as liner or close to my lash lines. So it's also okay to have this type of cream stick eyeshadow instead of a powder. Oh, of course, the original thing is much better, but it's a nice alternative. Finally, the difficult one is the duochrome yellow and pink. To my surprise, I think I have decluttered the thing. I have Cliona eyeshadows here, but this is instead by another indie brand. Oh, it's written there because these are very expensive singles, right? So at least they have this Touch of Glam, a Name 2 collection. This is the shade number 9. They were just numbered. You can see how much is the payoff, but I mean, it's not something I can go to work with. You see how magenta is magenta, pink, and yellow. See? So the concept is this one, and this is the only one I have left, but it's definitely not appropriate to dupe the palette. I mean, this is the most intense version. This is very silicone-y, and so it tends to crease on me. Maybe this would be the closest, but I will go more traditional. I will start with this yellow here. And then I will put a pink, a smooth pink on top. This one by Bobbi Brown, this pink, that is a nice metallic pink on the cooler side and overlapped over the yellow. It gives this subtle duochrome effect, not as prominent as a pigment that intrinsically is duochrome, but it will give that a little bit subtle gold and a subtle pink. This is another amazing formulation by Bobbi Brown. These are not Argelé, but they are so smooth. This is also a formula that is close to that Louis Vuitton glowy and subtle texture. Okay, so these are my proposals. A lot of work and layering for some shades. So let's see these on different lightings. This is under artificial lighting, is my bathroom. And yeah, it's incredible how different the effect is. You see that blue-black shade, you can see only white shimmers now, while under the dark sunlights, you could see the multicolored sparkles. This is more lighting. I have the light from the mirror and also a top light that is warmer. See you in my next video. Bye.